welcome back to our urban homestead life. I'm Kimberly and I thought we'd catch up this week in the garden. We are very let me sit down, hang on. So we live in a typical English estate. We live closed in on all sides in the back garden. We've got a fair sized back garden. I'm quite pleased with that. But we're surrounded by gardens. We've got no back access. The access is through this door here. So the door goes through to the garage. There's no way we can get any excavation stuff through. There's no way we can get access to the back garden apart from through the garage. So that's a little bit of background information for you. We have got lots of levels. We live on a big hill. We live in Sunderland in the northeast of England. And we live on a big hill, and so our garden is quite a lot lower than our house. And so as I show you around, you'll see, you know, how many steps we have to go down, and it's not miles, but it's also a rented property. I want to start by saying that as well. We rent this house. We've lived here for 2 years, and thankfully the landlord's great with the fact that they've said we can do whatever we want in the house and in the garden, so that's a great start. So I just wanted to give you a quick little garden tour and show you what a realistic, please bear with me, it is realistic, look at an urban garden where you can grow your own food. Let's take a look. So we're starting in the house. So there's my back door. It's a bit mucky, needs a clean, I know. So we've got the garage area with the pantry. So we come out of the back door and into the pantry area. This is the back door into the garden. So we come down steps, and the first thing we'll see is my potting bench. That's because it's been raining for I don't know how long, but she wants to have that back out again. So my potting bench is here. This is what my husband built me out of pallets. It's the first thing he's ever built in his life, and it's amazing. It's so sturdy. There's stuff stored underneath. There's all my pots and my broken pots to put in the bottom of other plant pots. And hopefully all this will hopefully go in the greenhouse, which I will show you in a little while. Then we have the little barbecue area. We love this. And we skip past the tip pile. This is all to go to the tip. And then we come to the first bit, this little patio bit. This is where we sit. Hence the first problem. Let me show you. This looks lovely. This needs a mow, but other than that, it looks lovely. Let me pan to the right. This. When we moved in, this was just all tarpaulin. We've got a couple of problems because we want decking up here, but the walls that border here and the next level down are all falling out, and my husband and I are not builders. So this at the moment is weeds and our greenhouse. I'll show you the rest in a second. So the next bit we come to is our little ledge that my husband built. There's a drain system just there, if you can see, and we built this because this was a sheer I don't know, we want a drop, but it's a really steep hill. So my husband again took pallet wood and built all of this out. So it's now we have the umbrella on it, and I put all my plants on there that should be going in the greenhouse. So I've got a couple of extra tomatoes there. That's some flowers that I'm growing, zinnias maybe, I think, and my 2 Roma tomatoes for my experiment, which I'll tell you about in a bit. So this is where all my plant pots go to store. Okay, the next place we come to as we pan round is my orchard. I know it sounds daft, an orchard in a small back garden, but the reason we've got these, we're going to eat off these. We've already had some apples off this first tree last year. My kids bought me these as a Mother's Day present, and we know we are renting, so I've put them in pots. All right. All of this is growth. This is nettles. I've harvested these for my tea and things like that. So I keep a little patch of nettles here and keep the baby away from it. She's 3. She's not a baby, but you know what I mean. And we keep them in pots. I try and keep it weeded, but again, it provides some cover because there's cats everywhere, all around the garden, in each house. So I try and keep some weeds in to keep them covered, and I feed them regularly and top dress them with soil. So we've got the apple trees. So this is a Braeburn apple. We've got some apples growing on here. This is my pear tree with it didn't fruit last year, but one solitary pear just there. I don't know if you can see it, look, just there. there. One solitary pair. And my plum tree is not doing very well at all. This one is the one that's going to be replaced with a cherry tree this year, because I've only got this much room. And a little hydrangea there as well. I've only got this room here. So if it's not fruiting, this is the second year it's not produced any fruit whatsoever. So I need that space. Next is my lovely overgrown weedy, I know, flower garden. So we've got dahlias, we've got foxgloves that are just going to seed. I don't mind, leave them there. We've got some lavenders in there. What else have we got? A few nigellas. We've got a few little bits and bobs. And I extended that round to this little area. So I made my little picket fence, and I've put some, look at the flower on, nearly about to go. Beautiful. This is my rose and my, what is it? Clematis growing up here. It's been got a bit, look at the holes on that. I need to sort that out. But my clematis growing over the arch. And that's the food. Because this is a thornless bramble bush or blackberry bush. So we've got that in a pot and it's growing lovely. Now bear in mind, I need to mow and I need to weed, but this is reality. Then into my part of the garden. So we keep this part for playing, for Hannah to play in. So she's got some garden to play in. And this side, we've got the arch and we've got the picket fence. And this side is my work in progress of my veg plot. So we start on this bed. This is where all my onions were this year. We've got some volunteer potatoes. It's just sat waiting for my brassicas, this. So there's some potatoes. There's a nasturtium that's appeared from nowhere. I didn't know where that was. And then this is my volunteer giant marigold seed. This was, I had a bed going this way last year. I had 3 beds. These 3 wooden beds here were all in different places. So this bed was, one of those beds was this way. And as I dug it up and moved it, that was obviously in the ground and it's just come up in my walkway. But I don't mind, I love it. We're beginning to gravel this, but it's a work in progress. I cannot, at this moment in time, afford to buy a great big bag of gravel and travel it through. So I'm buying it 3 at a time because it's on offer in a local store. Buying it, putting it down when I can. That's the job for today. So I know this is not like the most beautifully aesthetic garden you've ever seen in your life, but I tell you what, we're doing what we can when we can. And you know what? Most people do that. I can't encourage you enough to see the real life in things. When you see things on the internet, you see the finished product. You don't often see the work it took to get there. And a lot of times you either are saving up to do it, so it looks a mess. You get the money, but not the time, or you get the time, but not the money. The age-old quandary, isn't it? And we're doing this piece by piece. You know, when we moved here, this was all lawn. Every bit of it was lawn. And we've done so much to this place. We've done so much to it this year as opposed to last year. Last year I had 3 garden beds and a little pop-up greenhouse. You know, I have to remember when I look out into the garden, and it is a mess and it is overgrown with weeds and it does have bags of things and half done of gravel. But I tell you what, it's producing food. It's giving us food to eat, and that is the main thing. Don't have to look pretty. It looks pretty to me because it's doing its job, and it's showing and reflecting the hard graft that we are putting in to try and feed our family some stuff that we don't have to get from the grocery store. So let's carry on. So this next bed is got some carrots in it at the moment, so that's why looks like it's got nothing in it. I've succession planted some carrots, so we're just waiting for them to come up because I can't remember where I planted them. There was some garlic in here before that, and it failed, so I had to pull them out. But now I can't remember where I've put the carrots. I can just see some coming through at the top there. So yeah, we'll see when they come through, and then I'll plant with something else. And then we have our container potatoes. So these are all looking nice. We've got those ones flowering already, just in sacks, just bought from the local store and plonked on the end. There's some growing in there. These are our Christmas potatoes with some little sprouts coming up. I only planted them about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, so they're not going to show up yet. But my compost bin, which is, again, my husband built this for me out of pallets. I was amazed when we tipped it out last year that it actually made compost. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's the first time I've had a place big enough to put a bin like this. And when we tipped it out, and there's compost on the bottom, and I could put it in my beds, it was amazing, the most amazing feeling ever. But it will probably next year, when I've emptied it, go there and just swap those around, because that will make it easier to access from that side of the garden. When I'm cutting all this down, putting it in the compost bin, it'll make it easier to put it there next year. But there we've got my little fruit display. I've been working hard on this because they were not growing very well, so I've put a little riser up there and then some planks down so that they're off the ground a bit. But I've got 3 blueberries, 2 raspberries, a normal patio pink raspberry and a golden raspberry, I want to say, and then the 2 at the end are honey berries. They've obviously fruited and finished for this year, but this looks amazing. The only thing is, I probably could do with putting a little net over the top, because the birds like to come and eat the ripe strawberries. No, not strawberries. The birds like to come and eat the ripe blueberries, which are getting nice and big. Now we come on to the first of the original beds, and in here, yes, I know, everything needs a weed, I know. We've got 2, these are butternut squashes. These grew really well last year, and I got loads of butternut squash to put in the freezer and in the storage. That's doing really well. And that at the back there is my courgette, my one and only solitary courgette, which I've been hand pollinating because of the net. And we've had quite a few off it actually, and it's done really well. And then this side here is my peas. So I've got some sugar snap peas and some regular normal peas. So some of these, oh look, we've got some on here, I need to pick them off. So sugar snap peas, and then this one here, I think I've only got one actually, it's a normal pea, so I'm just waiting for them to pod up a little bit more. So that one's there, and they're growing up the net rather than up the trellis, but never mind. And in here, let me show you the jungle. So this was my experiment. So over on the little platform that my husband built, I decided I was going to do an experiment, because I have only grown tomatoes in a greenhouse. I've never grown them outside, and last 2 years ago we moved further north from where I was used to growing them. And last year I grew them in a greenhouse. Oh, dogs are playing out. Last year I grew them in a greenhouse, and it was Tracy from our Tracy from our small holding adventure. She asked a question, because she lives fairly local, I believe, up in the northeast. And I asked her if you could grow up north, if you could grow tomatoes outside, and she said yeah, you can. So I decided to do an experiment, because I had loads of tomatoes that I'd started. I'm very hopeful. I like to start lots of plants off. And I started off tomatoes, Roma tomatoes and some San Marzanos, and I decided I was going to plant them out. But what I did was I planted 2 Romas in the ground, and I left 2 Romas in the pots just to see what they did. I grew them in pots last year and they did great. So I've got 3 climbing San Marzanos at the back, and I've got 2 Romas, and this, let me turn it round, this is what it looks like. So this mass of greenery is 5 plants. That's what this whole mass of greenery is, 5 plants. I can't believe it. The Romas, these are the Romas at the front, and they have absolutely gone crazy. There are tomatoes down in there. There are tomatoes down in that bit there. Look at the size of them. They're absolutely huge. They've all got more flowers on, so they're not finished. Look, more flowers there, look. So these plants have just overtaken everything. They were falling into the aisles. And then we have the San Marzanos here. These are growing. There you go, we've got tomatoes there, we've got more flowers there, we've got more flowers there. These are absolutely taking over. I have been pruning them, but quite clearly not enough. But they look amazing. They look healthy. They look like they're growing lots and lots of flowers. Everything's got a ton of flowers on. And then growing into tomatoes. Obviously you don't just want the flowers, but they are growing into tomatoes. So it's amazing. I can't believe the difference. So what I take from that is that next year we're going to be planting tomatoes in the ground. I think I will keep saved seeds from my tigerellas from the first year we were up here. and they grew fantastic last year. I saved those seeds, they've grown fantastic again this year. So I think what I'll do is when I eventually, we'll get onto the greenhouse in a minute, when I eventually get the greenhouse up, we will put the tigerellas inside, I think, and grow those up inside the greenhouse so we can save seeds from them and get those again. I just like that's, for me, that's, you know, doesn't produce absolutely abundant tomatoes every year, especially not in the pots that they're in at the moment, but you know, bigger pots, more room to grow next year. But I just like them. I like the fact I can save the seeds from them. I like the fact that they grow again from the seeds. It's very much a heart project for me, the tigerella seeds. So the rest of that bed where the tomatoes are is just some lettuce and again a volunteer marigold. I thought that was a lettuce, but it's not. And some carrots down there. I don't know if you can see between the lettuces, some little carrots that Hannah planted, because she was given some little rainbow carrots in a set, and she just scattered them in there. And then this bed has been the bed that's been done the best, really. It's in shade at the moment, but this bed's done amazing. These were all chopped down. This is Swiss chard. There's some lamb's ear lettuce just under those leaves. This is going to seed now, I know. But that is an iceberg lettuce over there, and I chopped all of this down because they'd all gone to seed in the really hot weather we had in June after my holiday, and it's all come back again. It's grown. And then at the end of this bed I built myself, watching the Crockers on YouTube. I built myself a little trellis, a netted trellis. We had that spare. All of this is just reclaimed stuff that we had, and now we're growing weeds as well as some beans. So I got some beautiful Bolotti beans, some pink striped ones, and they're all coming up here, so hopefully they'll climb up this netting and see how it goes. And then I'm just in the process of trying to establish what I'm going to do if I'm going to put some more tomatoes there next year. I need some better trellising system, so that's my try to figure out how we do that this year. So next we come on to the problem area. So as you can see, I'm just going to show you a shot from this side of the decking. So we've got a wall there that is crumbling, coming away. All the bricks are falling out. They've had decking over here at one point and it was ripped out. This is all been ripped up. We tried to pull I know it looks a mess, but we tried to pull these flagstones up and put them up there to try and make a little area we could sit. Now all of this is overgrown and it's got nettles and all sorts in it, so we're going to have to really make an effort to sort this out, and I might just make these into big wide planters. But this, we started, we did not get finished. This is where the greenhouse is going to go. We've bought a proper greenhouse, so let me tell you the greenhouse dilemma. So we bought a greenhouse. I got some Christmas money given, and I managed to be able to put it all together to buy myself a proper greenhouse. It's polycarbonate, but it's not glass, but it's still got the, as you can see, the metal frame. When it came, it didn't come with instructions. It came from a foreign country. And it didn't come with instructions, so we've had to try and find the website and get it printed out, try and see what on earth we can do. We started making it and everything just went wrong. My husband suffers from arthritis in his neck and his shoulders, so he's fine. When it seizes up, he can't even lift his arms up. So we got waylaid with that. Then the gorgeous weather came and we were like, well, there's no point in putting a greenhouse up when we can't put anything in it at the moment, and it's going to get scorched if it does. So it's now laying in pieces. So the other problem has been that we are on a slope, and to try and dig it out again, bearing in mind my husband's shoulder, to try and dig it out level to put this base and this greenhouse in has just been, well, a nightmare's not the right word, but really quite difficult to manoeuvre, because we are on our own where we live. We've got Eric's mum, Eric's brother and Eric's uncle, and that's really it. Eric's uncle is got the same issue as Eric with his neck and his shoulder. Eric's brother cares for his wife full time, and Eric's mum, you know, she's very fit for her age, but she's nearly 70. She's not going to come and dig a garden, and that's really all we have up here. And this is another thing I want to say. Yes, you can do things on your own. Absolutely, you can do things on your own. But it will take a little bit more time than if you had help. and if you had, you know, friends that could come and dig things up for you. And just to finish the garden tour off, that's where the greenhouse will be. And this is our little strawberry patch. Now this year we had loads and loads of beautiful strawberries off this strawberry patch. And what I've done is every year, obviously, if you've ever grown strawberries before, all the runners come off, and that's new baby plants trying to grow. And what I've done is I've planted them down, I've pegged them down. You can see a few of the pegs in there. Look, I've just pegged them into the floor, and these have now rooted and started growing. I cut all the leaves and everything off all the adult plants, and these babies are now growing. Look, all of this is new growth. That's incredible, isn't it? This was absolutely bare. I cut everything down apart from the new little plants, and it's all growing back. So this will be more strawberries next year. I picked the best ones, the strongest ones with the roots that were already starting, and I put them in. Just a reminder, all this net is on because we've got cats everywhere and they like to leave us little presents in between our food, which is not what we really want. Yeah, and this is my little herb garden. 2 little boxes with some herbs in. So we've got some sage, we've been drying that in the garden, and the lavender. I've got some chives in there somewhere, I can see them there, yeah. We've got coriander, that got covered by, the sage grew everywhere and the coriander got covered, so that might not actually survive. But we've got some other little plants growing, we've got some chives, we've got some thyme and some oregano and some rosemary. And I've taken this and dried it, and I've chopped all these are the end of, these are looking a bit bedraggled because I've moved them. Some nice new growth on there though. They're both mint and lemon balm, I think they are. Moroccan mint and lemon balm. So these are great for teas, and these go in, obviously I dry these for cooking, and for my tinctures and all sorts of things. Yeah, so that's my little garden. So that's the garden tour. Just wanted to show you what we're dealing with here, and that we're not perfect. You know, I know it needs a mow and it needs a weed. Desperately, I know it does, but we've got such funny weather at the moment. It's raining and sunshine, and then raining and sunshine, and all in one day. We'll have a thunderstorm and then it's bright sunshine, so it's very, very conducive to weeds growing in my defense. But yeah, it just shows you that you can grow. Let's turn away from the horrible side. You can grow food where you are. You can do something. I haven't got acres of land, I haven't got chickens and cows and all that, but you can do something, and you can share it with your neighbours. We are locked in here, but we've given food to most everybody around. It's a lovely feeling, and to be able to store it, to be able to have the skills to grow it in the first place, and then to work on the skills to storing it and to canning it and to putting it into jars and preserving it and putting it in the freezer to use it at a later date. I think every little bit helps. And I was watching somebody on Instagram this week, Andy Grows Herbs he's called, and he said people are telling him it's not revolutionary to dig up your garden and grow food. People have been doing it for years. Yeah, they have, but how many people are actually doing it today? How many people go and harvest their tea, their dinner from their back garden? How many? Versus how many people go to the store to get their food? I'd say growing a garden is one of the most revolutionary things you can do.